pastor with Christian Democrats of America, and here at the state capitol, night before what might be the ruling on SB1070, and getting ready to show the film to Americans down here at the capitol. These people are out here supporting it, having a prayer vigil, and yeah, we're going to get ready to watch the film, and we're going to be talking to the filmmakers here pretty soon. I'm here with Julie in front of the prayer vigil, right? So just tell me, what are they doing? What is this? What are they praying for? What's happening down here right now?
So the prayer vigil is something that started Promise Arizona, which is the organization that it started with the prayer vigil. So 2 years ago, prior to SB 1070 being signed by the governor, a group of 7 people that Sunday decided to go to her house and host a prayer vigil in a way to not only bring about awareness about the bill, but also kind of pray that she would make the right decision. And so as a result of that week before she signed the bill, a group of people gathered here at the Capitol, and gradually each day it started growing bigger and bigger until it became thousands of folks. So that Friday when she signed the bill officially, it was very devastating, but it also became a moment in which it inspired and motivated a lot of people to continue to pray and continue to have the prayer vigil. So it's been around for almost 2 years now, and they've even gone to Washington, D.C. And the whole purpose of the prayer vigil is not simply to just pray, but to bring awareness of the injustice that is going on in this state, and as a result of SB 1070. But it is also a way to encourage and motivate those who are eligible to vote to really come out and vote and make your voice count. So this is what you're kind of seeing right now. Right now they're praying the rosary because it's rumored that tomorrow we might know what would be the outcome of the bill, whether the Supreme Court will rule it constitutional or not.
Wonderful. Well, and the name of the organization is?
It's Promise Arizona.
Promise Arizona.
Or Promesa Arizona.
Okay, well, tell everyone at Promise Arizona, Christian Democrats of America, across the whole nation, we'll be praying with you all tonight and tomorrow. We're going to put this out on Twitter and Facebook everywhere, and we're just all praying together for justice and for social justice and the right decisions to be made tomorrow. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to us.
¡Viva la Virgen de Guadalupe!
¡Viva!
¡Que viva nuestra Madre Santísima!
¡Que viva!
¡Que viva la Reina de América!
¡Que viva!
Madre Santísima, te ponemos todas nuestras peticiones en tus manos, especialmente con lo que estamos haciendo esta relación. Te pedimos que nos ayudes, que hagas tu voluntad.
You don't have to tell us your name, but what is your first name? Anyway?
George.
George. Nice to meet you, George. And so, what is your story? What is the and what do you know about this prayer vigil and what they're doing here? Have you been involved in this?
Well, I'm a Marine Corps veteran of Vietnam, 6 years in the Marine Corps, and then 16 as a covert operative in the CIA. And I've done the dirty work for this country, and now I'm trying to make amends. And for years now, all over the world, I've done protesting on behalf of liberal, progressive causes. And very much I've been involved here in Arizona on behalf of undocumented immigrants.
Wonderful. And I love that. What kind of reaction do you get from people when you're wearing the sign?
I do it to taunt the police, basically Arpaio and his people. But I also hope that somebody might take it serious and grab me or do something or whatever. The point being that you don't know by looking at somebody or by hearing the person talk who is an American or not. Somebody could be as American as I and yet not know English. It could happen. And therefore, to assume that the people who might be undocumented in Arizona are Hispanic is a horrendous affront to what America purports to stand for, especially Christian America.
That's the truth, because we're supposed to be about values, and values of compassion, values of mercy, and not about race. And all this is and that's why I love the point you're making with this, is the racial profiling. And it's gotten so out of control in Arizona, and it makes me mad even when I've talked to Hispanic people, how that, okay, I'm not going to get pulled over, and I'll get pulled over by a cop by speeding or for speeding, whatever, but I'm not going to get asked because I'm a young white, just average American girl, and I'm not going to get asked, but then you would, and that's not fair. That isn't the America as a Christian that I believe in, and that's not the America that we stand on in our values. So this prayer vigil tonight, this has gone on for a couple of years now. They do this, what is the story with the prayer vigil?
Well, we've been doing things here at the Capitol since April 23rd, 2010, the date that the governor signed SB1070 into law. But not every night since then, but every night we were here during that time of the year through July 22nd of 2010, when the final hearing was held at the U.S. District Court. And then here and there we've been here again against Arpaio, against the legislature that was trying to thwart the 14th Amendment with respect to who is an American upon being born here. And then most recently we've been here since April 25th, when the hearing was held in the Supreme Court on the current case, the decision for which we're awaiting.
Well, we are praying in agreement with all of you, and we're going to put this out to our audience, and we're going to be posting on Twitter all day and covering everything tomorrow, and asking our audience around the country to be praying for the right decision and justice. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
I'm here with Dan and Val, who created a documentary that I had the pleasure of seeing last week, the first public showing in Phoenix, and it was an amazing documentary, and I just want you guys just to tell us what the film's about, it's two Americans, and why you made it.
Well, I mean, basically, thank you first of all for giving us this opportunity to talk about it. This documentary is a story of what happens to a 9-year-old after her parents get arrested by Maricopa County Sheriff deputy. The other side of the story of these two Americans is the story of Sergio Arpaio. During the final years, you may say, his career, because he's now and basically all of these investigations coming together, and it's his struggle to keep his badge, to stay in power after 20 years in the midst of federal investigation by the FBI for abuse of power and actually allegations of civil rights violations. So these two very different worlds are colliding in the documentary. And I think I will also let Dan answer the question, but really what inspired us was seeing all this wave of legislation that we were having right here coming from the state legislature from politicians, which intent was to criminalize undocumented immigrants. And it's much more complex than what it seems on the surface. I mean, the idea was to make the social conditions really, really hard for people to leave. And when you do that, you're not only affecting the father and the mother that may not have papers, you're also affecting the children, you're separating families. We all have someone that's undocumented here. And that has a ripple effect in our community, socially, in the schools, in the churches, everywhere, but also economically, as we've seen with all those houses that were left empty, all the companies in their stories.
The immigration laws in Arizona have, for a number of years been evolving into what I view as something that is really mean-spirited, in effect. in Arizona, you have a significant part of the population that is Latino, and you have laws that year after year, maybe sometimes 3 in 1 year, are passing that are intended to punish anybody who looks like they might be a Latino. So, I mean, you're talking about racial profiling, you're talking about separating children from their parents, you're talking about, clogging the legal system with unnecessary procedural, things. It's a problem. And this film was an opportunity to go inside the experience of one family's struggle with these laws. But it's also an opportunity to observe this context kind of over the shoulder of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who is a very recognized law officer. He's also a very powerful politician in the state of Arizona. And I think through the course of the film, what's interesting is you start asking, like, who deserves to be American and who deserves to be slapped with this title of criminal. Because the sheriff is right now under investigation for criminal activities. And, it was the sheriff who originally arrested this 9-year-old girl's parents. And listen, the amount of raids that the sheriff conducts in Maricopa County, it outpaces the amount of raids that's done annually on a national level. It's unprecedented. It's an unprecedented attempt to expunge a segment of the population from a community. And it's not something that is making this community stronger. In a lot of ways, it's threatening the viability, the social fabric, and the economy of this local community.
So I think, one of the biggest points that I want to emphasize that Dan is saying is that basically Arizona has gone as a state politically above and beyond what the federal government actually does to control illegal immigration by making it a crime to be smuggled here into the United States, basically to pay a smuggler. You may be someone that's being kidnapped, but you could become actually a criminal and go to jail for that. Right now we have a law that says that, it's illegal to hire people that don't have documents, and the way it's being enforced, rather than to go after the employers that have a need for these workers, they're going after the workers, raiding them and taking people like Kathy's family. And the same thing with SB1070. They're basically making the attempt behind SB1070 is to make it a state crime to be here without documents, and you go to jail for that. Currently, at the federal level, your punishment is you get deported. Okay? You get deported. You don't go to jail if you're caught here without documents. So Arizona is going above and beyond what the federal government is doing, and that's one of the biggest questions. We have this disparity when different states start applying their own style of immigration law.
What I loved is how you express the injustice, the social injustice of it all, and how that the values on this. Do we really want to be expressing this as a country? This is our values. We're ripping this family apart, and do we really want to represent that? Is that what we want to be as a country in our values? Is that in the morality of it that we're going to stand for ripping little kids away from their parents?
I think for a lot of people it's really easy to say that if you come here illegally, then the law is the law, you should be deported, and you should make a decision about what you're going to do with your children. And people, tend to say that coldly. But when you present them with an actual face and an actual case and an actual story of the family that's facing that, that's completely different. Right. When they in their personal life have a family member and then they realize, oh, look, this person didn't have papers, they now, the whole perspective changes when it hits home. But it's really easy to look at the other, to look at these people, are they or the other. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
For as long as
marginalized
I don't need to see it, it's okay. They can go back and they can decide what they're going to do with the children. But when you see face to face the children and how they are, that they're born here, and how articulate they are, like the main character of the documentary, Catherine Figueroa. It's very difficult for anybody to, to say, go ahead and go back, right? You can't say it when you're faced, but the problem is that all this fear and all this lack of sufficient information that we're getting is keeping these people in the shadows.
Miseducation.
They are afraid, the people that don't have papers are afraid. There's language barriers. And then a lot of people in the population are also afraid because they're hearing that there are beheadings in the desert, that there are shootings in the streets. Oh, there was a drop house right in my neighborhood. What is a drop house? Where it's basically a house where immigrants are being prostituted by smugglers. They're trying to make money out of it, right? And so all of these things are keeping us apart. And I think that in the spirit of the film is like, let's get to know each other a little bit more, and let's see that these people have a lot of values in common with Americans.
Right.
I mean,
actually maybe focus on sending actual criminals to jail instead of families who just want to be together here in the country and want to live as Americans. And it's the system that's broken, and it's not their fault that our system is broken. Yeah, we need to fix the broken system. We need to allow them a way to come out of the shadows. But right now there's no way. So to put the blame on, it's just,
Yeah, listen, I'm a big, proponent of, recognizing how it's inhumane the way that our current immigration laws are set up, the way that our policies are set up. It's not in the spirit of how this country was set up to function, but it's also very inhumane. Okay, children getting separated from their families, this is not right. People working here that are they're just here working, right? They're not committing any crime. Why make their life more difficult? They're participating in the local society and enriching our culture. Their children, which we see in this film, are here growing up, and they're as American as I am and ever will be. And when we make life more of a struggle for their parents and for their family, we also kind of endanger their success as individuals. And I think that given that children are our future, we should really think about finding ways to support them instead of finding ways to destabilize them. I really shy away from this need to make the argument on an economic basis. I think that I can see plainly on a humanitarian basis, it's enough. But you know what? There is also that economic aspect of what are we doing in this country when, we have an aging population that is producing fewer and fewer offspring, and we have people who are going to need health care, who are going to need hospitalization, who are going to need nurses, who are going to need all sorts of things that we don't right now have at net zero immigration. We don't have a labor force to fill those concerns. So I think people, instead of worrying about, the crime that's associated or coming, this is all misinformation, with illegal immigration, we should really start thinking about how to make that immigration legal and make sure that we have support for our aging workforce, and that they're going to be able to fill in the gaps that our aging population is leaving.
Right. And as you showed in the film, the houses boarded up and the storefronts boarded up. How does that help anybody? How does that help the economy? How does that help the taxpayer? It doesn't.
Yeah, and what we saw in Arizona is that as the families were leaving this neighborhood, there was less property taxes to collect, less children enroll in the schools. Actually, the schools were losing money, and some of the schools had to shut down, especially in the area of Mesa. So little stores that have to close, and then when that little store has to close, what happens? The bigger company that's providing products also has, less consumers. So it's like a chain, and we've been seeing this even before SB1070, how car dealerships were closing the doors. I mean, and it was a combination, of course, like perfect storm in Arizona with the housing market going down and the construction industry and all of that stuff coming together with their immigration laws was a perfect storm. But certainly, it did have an impact. I wanted to say something. It might seem like this whole debate about illegal immigration is new, but it's been going on for a long time. And a lot of these immigrants have been here for quite some time, to the point that now we have kids that are in their 20s that don't have papers, that they've been here since they were 2 years old. So, one of my main characters, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, decides back in 2005 that he's going to make this like a central point of these law enforcement agency. But he's been in power by then, he's been in power for like 15 years. So all of a sudden it became urgent. What changed? The workers that have been arrested in these sweeps, I think there was over 60 sweeps, they've been working, some of them for 10, 12, 13 years in this place. So it makes you really wonder why it all of a sudden became urgent. Well, it became urgent because in Arizona we started to see, with the flow of immigrants coming across the border and the economy going really bad, all of this legislation that was supported by the voters, like Proposition 200 and a number of other things. So a lot of politicians here, like Senator Russell Pierce, saw that they said this is something that resonates well with voters. We got to keep pushing, and I think that Sheriff Joe Arpaio is no different. He saw that this was a new issue happening. But we need to understand that this has been going on for many years, and just look at the type of people that are being arrested for how long they were working at these places. It's not like they just came across the border. They are homeowners. Yeah. They're people that are invested in these communities. They're children. Some of them are born here. Some in the university. So it's not that picture that of these illegal invaders creeping across the border.
Right, exactly. And I'm really curious to know personally what kind of reaction you guys have gotten from the Christian community, from the church. And we are, one of the things we fight all the time, and it just sickens me that we hear all the time, that there are actually a lot of churches, and there's been a lot of push from the Christian community here in Arizona for 1070, for SB 1070, and for some of these things. And they have been for it. Now, I know there's a lot of churches that aren't also. So I just would like to know what kind of response you guys have had, and if you had any support from the church for what you're doing or seeing.
Ben?
I think as a filmmaker, the way that I like to make a film is kind of just present the issue from two different perspectives or from multiple perspectives, and let the viewer really make up their own mind about how they feel about the situation. So in Two Americans, you get to experience what's going on, what's going on with Arizona immigration laws through the eyes of a young girl and also through the eyes of a law enforcement sheriff. And I think in any community you're going to have people who, feel one way or the other about the issue of immigration. And when it comes to the church-going community or the community of Christians who are out there to watch this film, I don't think it's a monolithic group. I think that there are people who, feel differently given their life experiences or given, what news station they get their news from. They're going to feel differently about the issue of illegal immigration. So it's really hard. Now, in our experience making the film, we have had the support of certain churches. Literally, quite frankly, in some cases, when we would need an office occasionally to film an interview in, or to just have a desk, occasionally somebody would lend us a space, and that did come from the church community. So, but it's because our work, we've consistently shown that we are not interested in driving our opinions down anyone's throat. We're interested in presenting the issues as they are, trying to put a human face on the issue of the need for immigration reform in this country, and as a result, when we go out into the community, people get a chance to make up their own minds about how they feel,
Right.
based on what they see these people going through. But you know, it's frustrating. I mean, if you talk about, you know, evangelical Christian tendencies in this country, a lot of people associate with the Christian conservative right of this country, who extol conservative values and family values is a big part of that. When you see this little girl, Catherine Figueroa, fighting for the release of her parents, and when you see her family, who is, a lot of them are undocumented, but they still step out of the shadows and into the media spotlight with this young girl willing to do anything to try to advocate for the freedom of two of the members of this family. I mean, this is what America's about. This is what family values are about. So to me, I think this film has a great appeal to the Christian community who believes that family values are American values.
Oh, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, our values should be that, and as Christians, all through the Word of God, it's, even in Deuteronomy, it even references what we would think of as immigrants who are here illegally. In Deuteronomy, it talks about leaving some of your field for the strangers who are not even, who are strangers in your land, to come through and be able to glean on your field. And so, like, it gives all these provisions. And remember that you were slaves in Egypt at one time, so you should be compassionate and treat with mercy and compassion those who are in your country. And so whether they're a stranger in your country, stranger or not, and in some translations even says the alien in your country, it talks about that. And so there's no excuse as far as in the Christian population, our voting, when we're looking at our voting and the provisions and the things that we're looking at in this upcoming election, when it comes to immigration, our values are about mercy and compassion. We have to vote with values of mercy and compassion. And so that's just, I love that you guys have had support and that you're not receiving the other end of it too much. And I hope you don't. And I hope you don't.
Well, I mean, we definitely want to engage as broad of an audience as possible, and especially those people that are sort of on the fence on this issue. This is not black and white, and there's a conversation to be had, and we just want to give this information to people. And first of all, expose those that never got a chance to meet and document the immigrant family, like to really be with them, and also be with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Spend some time with him behind the scenes, like Dan did. I mean, it's really a very complete picture, I think, of someone that you only get bits and pieces. You know, he says for him that it's hard with the soundbites to get his message across. Certainly, you're going to see a lot of him in the movie, beyond the soundbites and, what moves him, what takes him, what's important for him. His wife is in the movie, too. I see a little bit of him with her in his office. So it's a good movie for people that are on the fence, especially right now, waiting for a decision on SB1070. With the announcement of President Obama about these young kids, you want to have more information and you want to have history and understand, how do we get to where we are here in Arizona? And this movie gives you that. It gives you that, and you are with the protagonist. So that most certainly, you may not be completely in agreement with all the movie, but you're going to leave the movie knowing Sheriff Joe Arpaio much more and knowing this immigrant community